Hello, last week I made this video called Why Being Atheist Doesn't Make Sense, and because I put that title on it, I knew I was gonna get hate, but I got more comments than I expected, so I saw a lot of arguments with what I had said, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna address the most common argument.
Greetings and welcome there people for YouTube, this is Essence and I'm doing another video response to KKortez, as he did a follow-up video to his last video, the one that I responded to, which was why being an atheist makes no sense. So he doesn't mention my video, he hasn't responded to any of my messages or my comments. However, I thought it would be in the best interest to also go through this one and see just how he followed up that terrible first act. So yes, with that we'll go straight into the arguments.
But the more I read into it, the more comments I saw, and then I realized it was my mistake. It was my video that was bad.
Well, that was kind of unexpected. So, do you acknowledge the facts that your arguments were extremely poor and you had a complete ignorance of the topics that you claimed to understand?
It was my video that was bad because it's not that my arguments were wrong, it's just that they weren't really fully fleshed out and they weren't really explaining a lot.
Of course not, but in the case for academic honesty, I shall continue to watch through your video and I shall continue to give my points on the matter as well as offer this video to the same audience that I offered my last one. So with that, let's continue.
And there's a reason for that, because a lot of people are confused thinking that maybe I made my video to convince people that there is a God or to convince people that atheism is completely wrong or whatever, and that wasn't the purpose of the video.
Now just wait a second. You are actually going on camera telling me that your last video, which was titled Why Being an Atheist Doesn't Make Sense, was in no way intended for the viewer to explain why atheism is wrong and it doesn't make any sense. Do you see the major issue here? This is an outright lie.
Obviously, I do believe that there is a God, and because of that I do believe that atheism is not right, but that was not the purpose of the video. The purpose was just to get agnostics and atheists to keep asking questions, but not just questions, but open-minded questions, because I feel like atheists are closed down to this box that is materialism.
Please go and find me any time slot in your video where you stated this clearly as your objective, because I can only find 2 small clips that could possibly, in some extremely out of field way, be suggested to say this. The first one is,
one reason it doesn't really make sense to me is because they're not really going in the direction that new scientific findings lead. Rather, they're going in the direction that best suits the story they've already chosen to be true.
And then there's this one.
Are you willing to not even consider the possibility of the existence of a God just because some people think it's dumb to believe in God?
Now let's compare these with the final statement of your video.
I love you, and it is because I believe that there is a God who came to die for us as Jesus Christ. Why I want to tell you this so that you will be as happy as I will be when we die.
So what you are saying is that the entire purpose of your video was to state something twice in 2 very vague expressions and then bury it under a mountain of irrelevant garbage and then end with a completely irrelevant point. Sorry, but just lying more and more is only digging your grave deeper.
And they do ask a lot of questions, they do research, I know that, but they don't go outside of that materialism box, and that's why they can't really fully understand what I'm talking about or where I'm coming from. They just think that it's nonsense, that it's stupid, that it's not worth their time, because that's how they see it.
This is because the basis for sense occurs in the observational and calculative parts of the mind. To argue against the basis of the naturalistic or materialistic or physical worldview, aka science, is to completely throw away the idea of sense, because you are disregarding what your senses pick up. More basic failures on your part.
And so that was pretty much my mistake. I tried to explain it, I tried to go inside that materialism box, trying to explain it in a way that would show them that, okay, you have to get outside of this box. It doesn't mean that you're gonna find what I'm telling you is right. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just saying, keep asking questions, because as much as atheists may say that they will just go wherever the evidence will lead them, or they just follow evidence, whatever I see is true and that's it, and they don't really do that for the most part. They already have decided that everything goes in a natural way, that anything that it's not natural is not true. They don't believe in a spiritual world, which...
So you say we do not base our position off the evidence, whilst at the same time, only base our views on the physical and the observable evidence. Anything else claiming to be evidence other than these things is lying. Because evidence, by definition, is something physical, something observable, something that can be measured and quantified. The word you want here is faith. At the rate that you are digging at the moment, and the sense of pride you quite clearly get from smelling your own shit, you could quite easily pass off as a dwarf.
There is very much a spiritual world if you're willing to look outside of that box.
Would Mr. Kortez please provide sufficient evidence, rather than stating opinion as if it were fact?
And it's not like being open-minded. Okay, I'm gonna see something and okay, I'm not gonna explain that in a natural way. I'm just gonna assume that that's not natural. And that's not the way I'm saying that to be open-minded. The way I say open-minded is to allow yourself to see things outside of your perspective. And if it doesn't align, if it doesn't make sense, then, well, it's fine.
As we have done with every single argument you have presented in this video and the last one, along with every other argument any theist at any time has presented.
But see, when people look, even articles by smart creationists, because there are a lot of very smart creationists, scientists, people with PhDs and all that stuff.
First of all, that is an argument from authority. I couldn't care what position they were. An argument stands on its own legs. The person's status has no effect upon this. Secondly, whilst creationists do often have PhDs, these are often serial packet PhDs, the ones handed out from creationist establishments specifically set up to hand out these fraudulent PhDs, I'll class them, because they do not meet the standards of your average university, to hand them out willy-nilly, so they can actually go up to people and deceive them by going, I have a PhD. What's more, the few that actually do have credible PhDs very often have them in completely irrelevant fields. For example, when dealing with creationism, a very common PhD for them to have is a PhD in dentistry, because they can try passing it off as a PhD in general biology. Just some things for you to think about.
They look at it, and when they read those articles, they're not looking, okay, why do they see it this way? Can it be possible? They don't see it that way. They go in to read those things, to look for errors, to look in ways in which they can say, oh, I got you there. Oh, this is wrong. It's been proven wrong by this guy or whatever. And they don't go in with an objective mind. And I know a lot of Christians or other religious people as well go into atheism with that mindset as well. But that's what I'm saying.
What you have just described here is known as skepticism or critical analysis. It's the very basis of questioning authority to ensure that you are not being misled by X, Y, or Z. So, if the argument fails on its premises, then the argument fails upon its premises. You cannot build a good argument out of a false premise. It's impossible. An objective argument should be able to handle the scrutiny from all different angles. A good example of this is the theory of evolution, which is tested every time we dig up a fossil. Each time we dig up a fossil, we can pit that fossil against the predictive model of the theory of evolution, i.e. we should not find a creature, so advanced that it is in the wrong strata of rock in geology. If it is, the entire theory of evolution would be in ruins. If you found, for example, the primordial poodle. So you see, that's how science operates. Question everything. It's the only way we're going to get rid of the bullshit in society. The mind should be open, like a sieve, filtering out what is bad. It should not be open like a bucket, accepting any old toss.
I have many other videos where I talk exactly what I believe in, why I believe in it, and this just wasn't the purpose of this video, and people just didn't get that. But again, I did fail in that I tried to fit into this human wisdom what is infinitely too big for it. I definitely do not have all the answers, so I constantly keep searching for the truth and learning more about this and that, and it is because I talk to so many atheists and so many people who don't believe in this, and because I read all those articles and I read a lot of stuff is why I'm so confident in my belief.
Yet if you read around so much, why do you lack an understanding of science comparable to that at GCSE level, i.e. ages 14 to 16? We had to learn about such things as the null hypothesis at that age. Yet, from your video that I responded to earlier, you quite clearly showed you know nothing about the scientific process.
Because I doubted, I searched for answers, and I found the truth in Jesus. That's just the way it happened.
And yet, in the possibility of saving thousands of souls from damnation, you can't or won't point out a single link to an article or give us any evidence to convince us. The very intention that was displayed by the title of your original video, as well as this one, regardless of whether or not you keep lying and saying it wasn't the intention.
Funnily enough, a lot of people had trouble with me using Pascal's wagers, which I know a lot of you don't watch my videos, but I've discussed that before, and I discussed how that doesn't really fit into believing in God, because it's not like you're gonna be able to fool God. Okay, I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna pretend to believe in God so I don't run the risk of going to hell or whatever. It doesn't work that way. But I use Pascal's wager not for you, again, not for you to believe in God, but for you to keep asking questions, because it's not like you're gonna fool God, but because of Pascal's wagers, you should keep asking questions, because if you are an atheist, you are running that risk. Whether you want to believe it or not, that is a risk you run if you are wrong.
What a complete and utter load of toss. I will show you why you use Pascal's wager in your original video.
I personally rather be perceived as dumb my whole life than risk my afterlife. If you're willing to bet on the fact that everything around you is a result of randomness and no involvement of an intelligent being, that's on you, but it just doesn't make sense to me.
So maybe next time when you want to lie, don't do so on camera, or just don't lie at all.
The point in that is that worst case scenario for me, I try to live a purposeful life and I die and nothing happens. But best case scenario for atheists, they live their life and nothing happens. You see, that's what I was trying to get at.
This is the very definition of Pascal's wager. Whether or not you deny it, you can keep stating that you don't like Pascal's wager and you can understand where we're coming from, but that doesn't change the fact that you just go and say, oh, I meant this, which is exactly what Pascal's wager is. That just makes no sense, and you're lying one sentence next to the other. You know, there's not even any time for people not to realise you're lying. Because you say one thing, and in the next sentence you say the exact other. Surely you must watch your videos prior to publishing them. Because, you know, this level of stupidity is just so amazing. Really, you should start watching them before you publish them, because whilst I say surely you do, quite clearly you do not.
Because to me, I agree, Pascal's wager is not that good, but it should lead you to keep asking questions because the risk is just too high if you are wrong. But anyways, I don't know why I'm repeating so much.
Oh, the repetition I can deal with. It's the bipolar-esque going back and forth between I'm going to define Pascal's wager, but I don't use Pascal's wager. However, this is exactly the same as Pascal's wager, and definition is Pascal's wager, but it's not Pascal's wager. You know, that's what really annoys me, and yeah, it just doesn't get anywhere. You're just fucking around now. So, let's go on to Pascal's wager and why the fuck it does not work. 4 points as to why it does not work. 1. If God does not exist, and, you know, you spent your entire life worshipping, you do have everything to lose. You have many experiences, as well as all that time and effort you put into worshipping, lost out of your one and only life. That is a loss, whether or not you like to admit it. 2. If you pick the wrong God, and then you stand before another God, how do you think that God is going to react to you if you took the belief of a different God on faith, as opposed to suspending belief? At least as an atheist, I still hold the ability to go, you did not supply sufficient evidence to make me believe in you. As a person who went on faith, you lose that ability. 3. If God was apparently all-knowing, as you claim he is, wouldn't be able to see through the fact that I only believed out of fear? Wouldn't he see that my belief was not sincere, that it was not out of love, but fear? 4. Hell is no worse than heaven. Heaven is merely an existence of worship to that deity you believe in, at least in the Abrahamic religions, an eternity of worship, to be stripped of who you are. Yes, both of them will end up the same way, stripped of who you are, your humanity, and everything that makes you you. Yes, you can make the argument that this will be done quicker in hell, but because you claim both of these things to be running to eternity, therefore they are not quantifiable in how bad they are, and therefore neither is worse than the other. Just in one case, you last longer, but you do by bending down as a bitch to an abusive deity, whereas as the other, you deny them that right.
God opens up your eyes and you don't let him do it because of pride, because ultimately that is what reason and logic does when you worship it, because whether you want to see it or not, we all worship something, whether it's sex, whether it's money, it's fame, even a family member or a loved one. We all worship something, and a lot of atheists worship logic and reason. And the problem with that is that this reason, it is derived from the natural things that we already understand, which means that that reason is very limited, because there are a lot of things that we admittedly, even atheists, that we don't yet understand. But anyways, I just hope that someday you see the light, and a lot of you see that as sort of insult, as sort of like an offense or something like that. But I do mean it with my heart, because since I do believe in a heaven and a hell, I just want you to have the best option. I want you to choose the best option.
Several things. Firstly, go fuck yourself. Secondly, we do not worship something that can be demonstrated to work. Thirdly, you rely on the same reason and logic to ensure that your computer operates and that you can use your camera. Why don't you think about these very basic things? You know. And lastly, fourth, your attempts to wrap or masquerade your bigotry does not work. We can see through your passive aggressive behaviour. We can see the utter twat you are inside. What a complete and prick you are.
Which ironically, in a way, that video that I'm talking about, somebody nominated me for pretty much the stupidest person of the week for that video. Which is funny, because those are the same type of atheists who then go to say, oh, I don't need God to be moral, I don't need God to be kind to people, and then they go and do these things nominating people. Basically, this lady has a show where she basically shames people and calls them out for being dim bulbs or stupid people. And the lady is not terribly mean to people, but she does have a big enough audience where the audience is meaner than the lady is, and they are much more mean-spirited and insult people and all that stuff. Which, again, those atheists are the same atheists who go on to say that I'm a good person, I don't need religion to be kind to people, but I'm gonna go insult this person and call them names because they don't believe what I don't believe.
You are the biggest bitch motherfucking hypocrite I can actually name. You know, just because you resort to threats of physical violence to gain your position, just because you give off this passive aggressive tendency behind every point rather than being direct about it, does not make you better than us. All it is that you disguise your bigotry in apparent love, which is non-existent. Whereas I'm quite honest with you, because I respect you as an adult to actually be able to take this. You know, it just really does amaze me that I have to come along and on a factual basis go through everything, and you know, oh, then you get upset because we say a few things as well. Well, maybe if people like you would actually do their research, wouldn't make stupid videos based on complete ignorance, we wouldn't get so annoyed at you. How about that for a thought? Also, as for being good without God, yeah, we can be good without God. Towards those who have earned our respect or have not wronged us in any way, yet you have come in being passively aggressive and directly threatening us with hellfire. You know, you don't go up to someone and say, believe what I believe. Or, you know, you might end up in that hellfire. You don't do that. You're not going to get a nice response from someone when you do. And that means you have no right to then bitch, whine and complain when we throw that straight back at you. But at least we also pick apart your arguments, or lack of them. You know, if you want us to be kind and respectful to you, earn that respect. Stop lying stop the threats of physical violence, stop the passive-aggressive, I love you, however, giggle bullshit, you know, cut all of that, and then maybe we will start respecting you and treating you as a fellow being.
Anyways, I usually script what I'm gonna say, and because I ramble on too much like right now, but I just had this on my mind and I wanted to talk to you about it, and I just don't feel like going in each and every one of the arguments, which I could, but they would have other counter arguments or whatever. Just, I've had these type of things before in Facebook comments or even YouTube comments, and it really leads nowhere, especially when they are close-minded and not really willing to explore beyond what they already believe to be true. Love you all, and again, you can always unsubscribe if you don't feel like watching my videos. I don't know why people feel the need to insult my videos before they unsubscribe. You can just unsubscribe if you want to. This is my personal channel. I'm gonna discuss personal things to me and what I'm thinking about and what I'm feeling. So anyways, I love you, I really do, and I hope you have a nice day and hopefully a nice afterlife. I guess I'll see you later, crocodile.
Well, I'm here to inform you that not even a script could fix your video. As for close-mindedness, none of your arguments worked, you know. You lacked any understanding of the fields, you know, on a basic education level. So you relied directly on lying, both in your first video, now in your second video, about what you said in the first video, which we have on video. And I've gone back and forth comparing them, you know. You have repeated some of the mistakes you made in the first video, you know, on a Pascal's wager. Even if you denounce Pascal's wager, you're really just messed up. And yes, this irritates me. And yes, I want you to get it through your thick fucking skull. You are the issue here. You have major projection issues here. You are extremely close-minded. You have shut yourself off and are just claiming that, oh, you know, these atheists are being nasty to me, therefore they have no argument, even though the way they treat me has absolutely no basis on what the fuck we are actually saying. Why not actually listen to the arguments, find out why the fuck the arguments that you started with in your first video are wrong, rather than repeating those mistakes, digging a deeper hole, and just keeping the cycle of bullshit going. So yes, that is the end of the video. And again, I find myself getting rather aggressive towards this guy. Don't know why. This guy seems to have something special that really fucks me off. I think it could be the way that he is passively aggressive. He threatens us with physical violence and then goes he loves us. That's just the salt in the wound. Yeah, that really does get to me. So anyway, yes, this is Essence of War. I hope you guys have enjoyed. There's been some stuff in here that I didn't discuss in the first video. Some stuff has been repetitive. Of course, I could only work with what I had. So yes, this is Essence of War. Take care. Out.